Hello. So in this video I'm going to answer a comment from Norfolk Yeti. Let me lift this. Who says, do you find the self of drifts in at random or seems prompted by anything? Sorry, do you find the self drifts in at random or seems prompted by anything? Zoom in. I find family interaction triggering of the selfing mechanism, like powerfully so too. I either sit in neutral silence almost or get swept along into a mutual self-fest. Even carries into the following hours and days, which seemingly creates some distance from presence. I'm not very good at reading today, apparently. There's likely some history/trauma causing it that I just can't seem to release. Okay, so that's the question there. So once you're at the point where something becomes aware, something here in that there's an awareness of the self coming and going, the selfing, what do they call it, meing and being. When there's an awareness that the self function comes into experience and goes, and there's a kind of contrast between the experience of living as a self and something else. Then the illusion is on its way out. The believability of that has taken a big hit in its reality. Because what you are essentially, or it's clear that there's something that's just here. There's something more essential and inherent for there to be the experience of the self coming and going, for there to be the experience of this meing and being. So something else is coming into experience in a way that transcends that selfing mechanism, whereas before that's not accessible because we were living from that self position, living from the point of view of the subject, looking out for presence or awakening. Pardon me, sorry. So there's something more inherent and fundamental that's just here. There's an expansion now with that limited identity into something more more real, more infinite, more dependable, you could say. And it's what's strange is from that position of the separate subject, from the point of view of that selfing mechanism, you start to feel the contrast between presence and the suggestion of not presence from the point of view or when there's identified thought. There's something bigger and deeper is just here. And you start to kind of experience the limits of the viewpoint of the separate subject and its ability to understand this. And it starts to become apparent that it just comes into experience due to conditions. And it usually comes in as some sort of reaction to your environment or an aspect of experience, a reaction to emotions or the world in a relational way. And then it's just not there. But when it's not there, it's too simple to be confirmed from that point of view. It's just, so you're starting to see the intuitive side of this moving, because the self comes and goes in that which you are that doesn't come and go. The reality of that is taking a hit, because it's not felt to be inherently here. It's not felt to be the fundamental reality, the basis of experience, existing as this limited subjective point of view. So then it starts to clarify that the absence of this selfing mechanism becomes more clear in a state of letting go, in a state of relaxation. So the forward movement of the path is broken, and the letting go aspect of this, or the intuitive exploration aspect of this, becomes more apparent. And then from that, we then kind of have the ability to access, or there is an awareness of, that comes into experience, the nature of this selfing mechanism, like what makes it tick, what makes it come online. The identity, so to speak, is expanded out from this limited point of view. So there's an awareness of an access to, so to speak, a connection to aspects of experience that we were never able to get close to, or never able to explore. So expanding out of this position of into that which doesn't come and go, that which you are that is aware of this selfing mechanism, so to speak. In a very simplistic way, in a transcendent way, of which that self isn't able to comprehend. And there can be the noticing or the recognition of patterns that, or the conditions that give rise to these patterns of selfing, this function of relation, this subject-object felt to be real experience. So then there can be almost like relaxing back into that which you are, that doesn't come and go, that which is always here, that can't be defined. It's strange. It's not like a leaning back out into a subjective position, although it does kind of feel like a backward step in an expansive way. But at the same time, we get closer to that selfing function. There's an intimacy with it that doesn't include resistance, that is peaceful and inherently accepting. And in that, the function starts to dismantle itself. Every time it repeats, it disproves an aspect of its own inherent existence. So it's like the inquiry from that which is always here, that you are, from just simply this. It has a kind of automatic and intuitive, masterful way of dismantling this pattern, or removing the reality from this pattern in a very deep and very felt way. And it does it on its own. But for a while it does require a relative practice, like an attentiveness, an intention, like I talked about in the last video, a living inquiry, where there's the strong felt intuitive intention to honour what was realised with the awakening, to live that, to embody that as much as possible. And it's very much a letting go. It's very much a clarity, a passive clarity, into which appears this selfing function in thought. Every time it appears, it dismantles a part of itself. The clarity gradually permeates the obstructions, the density of that self belief, or that assumption, that repetitive pattern that just assumes that I am a separate self, I am me, I have to relate to life in this way, that's the only way. So you know what I mean, that expanded non-local position, that which is just here, that there's this mismatch again between the limits of the knower, the limits of the experiencer as a separate self, and then just this as it is. And its qualities are infinitely forgiving. It's not moved by any of the apparent illusions that appear in experience. So it can't resist that, because it is the substance of this. It can't resist it. So what seems to happen is I guess you could frame it like this, like the light of awareness, the light of consciousness shines through it. So it no longer maintains the same density, the same ability to block the light. The light shines straight through it, it becomes transparent. It loses its realness, it loses its substance as something that actually exists. And it's a very natural process, but it doesn't require effort in the same way. It just requires a clear and open attentiveness, and just let this, what you are, do the work. Because we can't control it that way. It's kind of doing itself at this point. And it comes and goes, and sometimes it will be kind of like in retrospect, or a lot, it's probably in retrospect, that you realise that this selfing function has taken over. The assumption has been assumed, and the thoughts and actions and emotions seem to be informed by that misperception. But then that gets closer and closer and closer, and there's less of a distance between what I am and these thoughts. That's what I mean when we get closer. But it's expansive, but it also brings everything closer. And the experience becomes more intimate, and there's less potential to take a position and judge what's happening. When that happens, it comes through the back door and starts up, and then in retrospect, you're like, there's a recognition, there's a noticing that, the self has come back online. That's like a micro awakening. And then it starts to get to the point where that recognition is present. This is knowing itself, recognizing itself immediately throughout the movements of this selfing function. That becomes more and more the primary experience. And then in that, it just loses its realness. It's clearly just thought, just thinking. It's clearly just emotion, sensation. There's nothing real in it anymore. So the light shines through, it becomes invisible or transparent, because it's still part of experience, and everything just gets more and more simple that way. So the awakening is what, breaks that. There's the illusion, like the illusion takes a hit. You know, something comes into experience that is more real, more free, more intimate than that identity. And then that which is realized takes over. You kind of fall into that, or sometimes it feels like the self is being dissolved into that as it comes and goes. And then that movement of the self coming and going just feels less real, and then eventually it's just made of your substance, what you are. It's made of this pure self-knowing awareness. It's made of an infinite mystery that can't be captured by any of the movements in it, because that's the substance of it. So I think there was another part of this question that I didn't read. Yeah. I think most of us have had or have a protective identity, and to observe people in general, it appears the most apparently happy with it carry the heaviest identity cover. There's a definite okayness with letting it go. Yeah, like a contentment as opposed to an overt happiness. Yeah, letting be what is, letting go. There's a article or post on the Awakening to Reality website, and I think it's called something like The Art of Letting Go, which is really good if you want to go and give it a read. I posted a video about this, about like what is letting go. Is it something I do or not? For anyone who's not seen that, but it very much it does. The balance tips, and it becomes like a backwards movement into yourself, rather than a looking out for something. Anyway, I've run out of time. I have to go. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll talk to you next time.